Sounds like we're there. Let's call the meeting to order. And Chamomile, can you roll call us?
Absolutely. Commission Chair Ari Novi.
Here.
Commission Chair, Vice Chair Christian Adams will be absent tonight. Commissioner Inge Bisconner. I will come back to Commissioner Inge Bisconner. Commissioner June Hansberger.
Present.
Wonderful. Commissioner Katie Kramer. Commissioner Katie Kramer. Commissioner William Morrison.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Carol Parker.
Present.
Commissioner Katie Kramer. Commissioner Inge Bisconner. Okay, well, we do have a quorum.
We have four.
And
Looks like Commissioner Kramer just joined us.
wonderful. Commissioner Katie Kramer.
Hello.
Hello. Commissioner Inge Bisconner. Commissioner Carol Parker is here too.
So we do have a quorum, so we can keep going. So thank you for that. And Commissioner Bisconner may join us. I got an email from her yesterday. I thought she was attending. But let's move on. So anybody who likes can please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Changes to the agenda tonight.
Oops, sorry, I think I missed that, Chamomile.
No changes to the agenda tonight.
Thank you. Any oral communications?
We do have a couple of oral communications. Our first speaker is Gerald Kessler. And whenever you're ready, Ms. Kessler, you can go ahead and address the commission. You have 3 minutes. Gerald Kessler, are you still with us? Okay. Well, we can come back to Gerald Kessler. We had another speaker listed. I don't see them online yet, Clint Meyer. So maybe we can reconvene oral communications later in the meeting. Apologize.
It looks like Gerald Kessler is raising a hand, which means that there's somebody there, but I don't, maybe having audio problems.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
We can. Thank you. Thank you. You're unmuted. You may go ahead. Thank you, Gerald.
All right. Hang on. I'm just speaking in a rural upstate New York. So give me a second here.
Wow.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
All right. I would like to speak tonight about the environmental nightmare housing project on Melba Road, the Staver project, which is slated to put up 31 homes on 6.6 acres that will take down 173 mature trees, 30 other smaller trees, and native plants and shrubs, and a historical home built in 1938, all based on the density bonus law AB 2345. I already mentioned the tree line on Melba Road, which has served the neighborhood's tree canopy for many years, is set to come down to allow the widening of Melba Road for this project and to add less than a foot, keeping the road straight for the traffic engineer's preference. Not working around the trees and taking them down will also provide Staver's housing project extra parking spaces because they took 34 spaces away on the second submission. Brian continues to harass at least 3 longtime residents, one about allowing him to drain the runoff of the project through their property. He is currently trying to reinvent the wheel on the drainage and runoff of the project, and our neighborhood would become its guinea pig for his experiment. The second submission plans for the hydrology and runoff project are seriously flawed, sending water and runoff uphill. The second neighbor he continues to harass lives on the top of Island View. Brian recently told them he will be putting up a fence on the questionable property line. These tax-paying seniors will who simply want to age in place in their homes have been maintaining and caring for the land for over 30 years, which seems like squatter rights would come into play with this fence situation. This property where he's placing the fence, we were told in March by our lawyer and soil expert that the soil should not be moved until further testing has been done on the property. Initially, the limiting testing by Geocon said the soil was loaded with toxins and pesticides, such as toxafen and chloridane, from years of greenhouses on the property. These compounds will go airborne and are not good for the neighborhood. The location where he wants to put the fence sits next to Oakcrest Middle School, the Boys and Girls Club and Garden, and lastly, the last rural horse farm in Encinitas. Again, why is he allowed to do this when the project is not even approved? And another kicker, on the second submission, he had an original one-story home switched to two-story so he can manipulate the neighbor who is impacted to allow him to remove neighboring shared matured trees. Then he would turn it back to one story. We also learned recently that Brian is not watering any of the trees or native plants on Melba property in hopes of letting the tree and native plants die so he doesn't have to claim they're living on the tree count. This is not illegal, I don't believe, but it's not right. It's a fire hazard for the neighborhood and it's not good for the environment. But it also demonstrates how uptouch Brian Staver is with environmental issues in our neighborhood. He is not environmentally conscious. I can't get mad at Brian anymore. You just feel sorry for people like him that don't get the environment and stand up for it. They somehow missed this key developmental life ingredient to maintain Mother Nature. The preservation of the property is the only answer. The property sits near Oakcrest Park, which is the hidden gem of the community. The park is also home to many rare and endangered species and plants, such as the California gnatcatcher, iconic Delmar manzanita trees, and Baccharis vanessa shrubs. Staver property also shares border with Oakcrest Middle School, the last rural horse farm in Encinitas, the Boys and Girls Club and Garden, and many long-time peaceful tax-paying residents of Encinitas. The property would be a perfect location for open space and possible annex for the botanical gardens or outdoor STEM classroom. It could be funded by the soft infrastructure money that we will be receiving in the new infrastructure bill that is being worked on in Congress. Soft infrastructure refers to all institutions that maintain the economic, health, social, and environmental cultural standards of the country. This includes educational programs, official statistics, parks and recreation facilities, law enforcement agencies, and emergency service. Please help assist the community with fundraising and grants for acquiring the property from the Staver Trust. There have been at least 5 to 6 housing projects, all within a mile of each other of our community, and no open space to even out the scales and balance the neighborhood. It's the right thing to do for the community. Please help us save the Encinitas Redwoods, which aligns with the Encinitas Climate Action Plan. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Gerald Kessler. That concludes speakers.
Thank you, Camille, and thank you to our speakers. Would somebody like to make sorry, do we have any oral communications? Or where are we? Changes to the, sorry. Approval of the minutes. Sorry, apparently I'm having a rough day. Thanks. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the last meeting's minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the minutes are approved. So now we'll move on to number 6, informational item, and we have Crystal Nahara from the city to talk about green building incentive program improvements. Thank you, Crystal.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Can you hear me? All right, great. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Change the display settings. Come on. Not responding. Okay, is that better? All right, so thank you for having me here at your meeting tonight. I will be going over the city's green building incentive program and some of the options we're looking at for potentially improving upon it. So the existing program is applicable to projects who want to get Greenpoint rated certified or LEED certified. So if that's of interest to a project proponent who's building a building in Encinitas, they can get up to $2,000 to offset the cost of getting that certification. The certification involves doing some energy efficiency and other environmental upgrades to the building to make it more eco-friendly and more energy efficient. The project also gets priority permit processing and gets recognized at a future city council meeting for this environmental stewardship. And this picture on the front is actually of our city hall, which was LEED certified in 2012. And there's another little known program that we run as well called the Energy Efficiency Fee Waiver Program. And this is a program that's still active. So if a project applicant comes in and would like to install any of these energy efficiency features on their home, either solar water heating, EV home charging, or compressed natural gas home fueling, there is a fee waiver for installing those features. But what we've learned over the past year or so, partially because we've been looking into adopting a new green building program or ordinance, as part of that process, we did a bunch of public outreach and stakeholder involvement and learned through that process that there could be some ways that we could improve upon the green building incentive program to make it more effective. And so some of the reasons for that are primarily to make it better aligned with the city's climate action plan. Right now, with promoting the certification through LEED or Build It Green, the focus is more holistically on the environment, whereas if we were to make it a little bit more focused on reducing greenhouse gas emissions or looking at promoting electrification of buildings, that would be more in line with the city's climate action plan. And another thing that was brought up was that LEED and Build It Green certifications, at least for here in California, are pretty comparable to California's Title 24 energy efficiency requirements. So buildings already are required to do a lot as it relates to energy efficiency. So doing LEED or Build It Green does not really get us much more in the sense of energy efficiency. And then lastly, revamping the program one of the goals could be to increase the volume of energy efficiency renovations that we are seeing right now in Encinitas. Right now, there's not a lot, but the hope would be that if we revamp the program, we could promote a greater amount of energy efficiency projects to be completed. So this pie chart shows residential energy use in California from 2010. This is some of the latest data, although it's a little old. It is still pretty relevant and current as it relates to analysis. And what it shows is that for residential use, the majority of energy usage is from water heating and space heating, if you can see by the blue and the orange pieces of the pie. And then the remainder is other appliances like cooking and clothes drying and pool heating, pool and spa heating, and some other miscellaneous items. So based on that, it would make sense to really focus on those areas where you could be most impactful, like water heating and space heating in potentially revising our incentive program. So the next slide this is actually from the city of Napa. This is an image that they use to show where in your home you have potential opportunities to make your home more energy efficient. And so a lot of this has to do with space heating. And so things that you can do to your home to improve the efficiency of your space heating is duct sealing and insulation are big components. That's where you can get some leakage from your heating and cooling components. And then also looking at your windows. If you have older single pane windows, you could upgrade those windows to dual pane and get some energy efficiency there. And then of course, looking specifically at the appliances like the air conditioner or the water heater, those are locations where you could look at possibly upgrading the appliance to something more energy efficient and possibly something more that's uses electricity versus natural gas. So here's some things that staff has been considering in terms of revamping the program. We're looking at, instead of doing an incentive for the certifications, looking at doing more of an item-based rebate program. And so we would focus on things that would either reduce energy use or convert the home to an electric, or more appliances in the home to electric energy sources. So as it relates to space heating, these top 4 items would improve upon the efficiency of your space heating if you did duct sealing or insulation improvements, changed out your windows, or looked at changing out your HVAC system, specifically going to heat pump or electric there. And then under water heating, that's another big one where you could really get a lot of bang for your buck in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The key here would be to change out your gas water heater to a heat pump water heater. And then cooking appliances, dryer, and pools, we have some options there too that we're looking at to further provide kind of a menu of options for buildings. And then here's some other things that we've been thinking about. One option is we could convert the program completely to this item-based program where we provide incentives for just these individual items and completely do away with the certification rebate, or we could do a combination of both and offer rebates for both. And so those are a couple of options we're taking around. And then as it relates specifically to the item-based rebates, there's some refinements and specifications that we could offer. We could require that it's for that the rebate would apply to existing buildings only, because as it relates to the green building ordinance, that would really capture new buildings as it relates to the convert, or the new buildings are soon to be, if council adopts it, soon to be required to be all electric. So that would really kind of check the box in terms of reducing emissions for new buildings. And then we could also require that the new equipment replace existing gas equipment. So that would be another improvement. We could also require that the contractor be an Encinitas-based business to promote local businesses. And we could also just have some caveats like requiring that the request for the rebate be done within 3 months of the purchase and installation. If permits are required for whatever improvement they're doing to the home, that those would be required to be received in order to receive the rebate. One example of this is water heating. It's fairly often occurs that homeowners, when they need to replace their water heater, don't always get a permit to do that. But that is actually a requirement of the city to get a building permit to change out your water heater. And then finally, we could, to make the program more equitable, we could have a caveat that only allows 1 rebate per item per address for every 5 years. And then some other options that we've been looking into and evaluating are a home energy assessment program. I know last month at your meeting, you heard about a home energy assessment program that's being run by the city of Palo Alto. And it's a great program. I've looked into the program and it sounds like they've really nailed it with how they're kind of going about educating homeowners and getting them to kind of learn about what they currently have going on in their home and what opportunities they may have to make it more efficient or make it less greenhouse gas producing. That's kind of the pros of the program. One of the cons is it is a fairly expensive program to manage. It would be more costly than what the city currently has budgeted for the Green Building Incentive Program. So that's something that we would need to consider is if this was of interest, it would be we would need to get approval from council to increase the budget for such a program. One thing to note is the City of Palo Alto's program and many other similar home assessment programs and rebate programs are actually run by their utility and not their city. So what that means is Palo Alto actually manages the distribution of electricity within their city, and they charge their customers for the use of that electricity. And they also charge them a fee on top of that goes towards this assessment program, this home energy assessment program. So that's how they're funding this program. It's not being funded by the city's general fund. So just something to note when we compare or we think about what we want to do as a city versus what other cities and utilities may be doing. One other thing that has been considered, something to think about, is that there are other certifications out there that we could look into and possibly offer rebates or incentives for. So there's one called the Zero Net Energy Certification. This one actually aligns more with the CAP's greenhouse gas emissions goals and focuses on reducing emissions through reducing your energy use in your home. So that's its advantage. The disadvantage of this program is that it is fairly costly as it relates to a certification, and it's a pretty lengthy process to get the certification. Not only do you need to go through the permitting process and the installation of the features, you also need to run your home or your building for about a year after you do all the installations to demonstrate that you did achieve your zero net energy goal. So that's pretty time consuming and might be a challenge for residents to commit to. Another thing that staff is looking into is potential partnerships and grants to kind of augment and support the incentive program. So we are a member of San Diego Community Power, our local community choice energy program, and they are looking into offering grants for their member agencies to run to support us in some of our climate action plan initiatives. And this is potentially one thing that they could support us in helping to supplement our green building incentive program. So I'm in discussions with them right now about that possible opportunity. And then further down the road, San Diego Community Power actually has intentions of their own to develop customer programs. So something that we're envisioning right now at the city of Encinitas could actually be rolled up into something that's offered for all customers that are in San Diego Community Power. So, and that could happen within a couple years or so, depending on their ability to be able to offer these customer programs. So something to consider there too. I'm also seeking support from SDG&E's Reach Codes team. They're able to offer support as it relates to outreach and training and developing brochures and doing marketing and things like that. And then finally, there's the San Diego Regional Climate Collaborative, and they also have ways that they can support cities and doing initiatives like this. And one of the major components of the new revamped program is going to be outreach and training. That's definitely one thing we heard loud and clear through the public outreach and stakeholder engagement through the Green Building Ordinance development, is that the program, the Green Building Incentive Program, is not very well known. And so we could definitely improve upon that. And do some targeted outreach for that. We could improve the brochures, we could improve our online resources, we could do some targeted advertising and marketing. We could also focus on doing training, workshops, classes for the public, but then also doing training internally for our staff here, and particularly those that review plans and inspect buildings. And then also training for developers and applicants so that they're aware of the incentive program, but also so that all of these actors, I'm blanking on my wording here, so that they all know what just the standard statewide requirements are as it relates to energy efficiency, what they're called Title 24 requirements. It's become evident that that these folks may not be very familiar with what the basic requirements are, and that there may need to be some training around just those basic requirements as well. So as we're rolling out this revamped incentive program, and then also the Green Building Ordinance, we'll also be focusing on identifying where there may be some pitfalls in our process and where we can potentially improve upon that and make it a more effective process. And that's all I've got for a presentation, and wanted to open it up to you all to discuss any ideas or comments you may have about these possible improvements.
Thanks, Crystal. It looks like Commissioner Morrison has a question.
I had some comments, and I also wanted to thank Crystal for doing such an awesome job. I had been involved a long time ago on the incentive program, and then also worked with Crystal on the developer side of the green building ramp up. I'm also I'm a developer, so I do a lot of the Title 24 analysis, and I also am a lovely lead AP, B, D, and C. So I had to deal with the commissioning stuff too. So hopefully, I just did my CV, so now hopefully my comments are valid. I had a couple ideas, Crystal, that on the program. I was wondering if it would be possible that if people bundle the incentives that were listed, that they would get some type of small multiplier to increase their rebate or incentive. I know that you were talking about cost, but if we somehow start bundling it, we'll get more put into a remodel. And give them a greater incentive to do more than just one thing. Mm-hmm. Another question was to kind of pay for that and or incentivize people to do this is to put some type of a surcharge on the permitting process or something for remodels that don't use anything in the program. That would help push the program to get more people involved and or pay for it. On the commissioning side, I heard your hesitancy on the residential commissioning. Commissioning is and it has always been an issue from the lead side when people don't choose not to do it because it's that 6-month and 1-year commissioning that is the financial burden. So I don't know how successful any resident, uneducated resident would be to do a commissioning of their house after the work, and then they'd probably have to hire a third party, and that would be a disincentive. And on your outreach for these incentives, I would think that since the businesses that people use have to be Encinitas based, that if you just do a direct marketing right off the bat to all the Encinitas business licensed and businesses that are plumbers and HVAC and the whole mechanical, electrical, plumbing, that may get a better bang for your buck, because they would be going direct to their client to say, hey, I can get you a deal on this if we do this. Because I will admit right now that my buddy, the plumber, didn't tell me I needed a permit to replace my water heater when it failed. So maybe he could have got me a deal as opposed to the bro deal. That was me rambling. Thank you for doing all this hard work. I can't wait to see this thing implemented.
Thank you, Commissioner Morrison. Those are all really good ideas.
Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you so much, Crystal. This is such excellent work and presented really clearly. Thanks for all of your efforts researching these options. They all are really exciting, and Commissioner Morrison has, like, his ideas sound really neat too. I just had a couple of quick questions. Would the incentive program, is it currently separate from the ordinance, and would this the proposed revamp of the incentive program, be part of the ordinance, or are they separate things?
They are separate things. I mean, they're similar because they're both related to green building, but they are separate. Yeah.
So would the incentive revamp also need to go through city council? Like, is it actually a code? Is it a law, or is it something different? I guess.
That's a good question. It will need to go to council. It's not a law per se, but it's more like a policy. So we'll take it to council after we get done with the ordinance process and get their approval for the revisions. I don't think it'll be as contentious as the ordinance, or certainly not as drawn out of a process. We've kind of been gathering some of this information along the way of the ordinance. So my expectation is I should be able to take it to them fairly quickly without a lot of added involvement. I'm bringing it to you guys tonight as an informational item, so I think that will help as we take it to council. So yeah, it'll be less involved.
Okay, thank you so much. And I have one follow-up question. I'm not sure if this is a time to address this, but I was curious about the status of the ordinance. It looked like the council was considering those exceptions. I don't know if you were able to provide an update on that right now, the exceptions to electrification, or if that should be handled at a different point in the meeting or at a later date.
Yeah, I mean, if it's okay with Chair Novi, I can give an update on where that's at. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we took it to council on August 18th. It was 18th. It doesn't go back that far anymore. It was in August. And at that time, council did direct to have 3 of the exceptions removed. So the exceptions that were removed were the one related to cooking, outdoor and indoor fireplaces, and pool heating. So that one was removed. The one related to multifamily hot water heating was removed. And the one that gave an exception for ADUs was removed. So, and then the 3 remaining, which were for extraneous significant utility costs, for essential facilities, and there's one more. What is it? I have to look at my notes. Where are my notes? I don't have any notes for you. The last one is for-profit restaurants. And so for those 3, council asked that we reevaluate those and see if there's any way to narrow those down or make them more, make it more clear what exactly those apply to. So staff has worked on that. We're in the process of revising the ordinance, and we'll be taking it back to council on September 22nd for their reconsideration. Since this was a fairly significant revision, this will be a rehearing of the first reading, and then I'll need to go back to council for the adoption after that. We're looking at going on October 13th for the adoption.
Great. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Bisconner.
My dog is barking. I apologize. Crystal, thank you as always for your excellent hard work. I echo the other commissioners' comments. My question is, and actually thank you for that one slide that shows where the majority of the residential energy is. I think that really helps frame this conversation. So water heating is 52% and space heating is 31%. So in view of that, and it's kind of a two-part question. So in view of that, what do you think the low-hanging fruit is for these possible activities? And I took a picture of the other slide. So water heating had a number of things that we could do. And then space heating had 3 items. Duct sealing, insulation, and windows were 3 activities that could contribute to better space heating. And also heating, ventilation, and also HVAC. So there were 4 items under space heating, and then, water heating is just, better appliances, I guess, basically. So what do you think? So kind of a 2-part question. What do you think is the low-hanging fruit to spend our time, energy, and money on? And then secondly, in view of Judy Burlfine and Deblo's presentation from last month, how do you think their recommendations fit into this overall scheme and presentation that you're working on?
Yeah, maybe I'll answer that part first. I think that their presentation was really, really on target and very similar to kind of what we want to do with revamping the incentive program, and definitely want to work with them. They've got so much expertise in this area. So I've already had a meeting with them and kind of toss some ideas around, and we'll continue to do that as we move forward. And I think we're in alignment as it relates to what's most important. And you identified that, Ingi, is that it's the space heating and the water heating. So you're right. If we wanted to prioritize this item-based rebate, we could, give greater priority to those areas because they are the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
It is fairly easy to change out your water heater to a heat pump water heater. It's a little more complicated in that you do need there's some electrical work in addition to the plumbing work that needs to be done. But a technician that knows what they're doing can easily do that, and it's not that much more expensive than a traditional gas water heater. One difference is that it actually could be more costly when you compare the cost of running it on electricity versus gas. So that's one thing for the homeowner to consider. However, if they pair it with solar, if they're thinking of getting solar, and there's the other incentives for solar, then it could, the costs could play out. The solar would pay for the additional electricity use. The space heating is also pretty important, like you noted, but it's a little more complicated to achieve the efficiency. And this is what I learned from Judy and Dadla, is that the most important thing to do first is really those maintenance measures, the duct sealing and the insulation before you actually go down the road of replacing equipment. You can get a lot of efficiency out of just making those home improvements before you spend the money on the equipment. So, there's even a hierarchy within space heating that we could take advantage of as well.
So you'd say the low-hanging fruit would be appliance, water heating appliance incentive replacements, and then also maintenance of the space heating areas. And would you include training of city staff to help disseminate the proper information to folks, and maybe even a second tier of informing our local contractors?
Certainly. That's definitely, you're right. That's like the very low hanging fruit. That's like on the ground. We've got to do the outreach and the training. And thankfully I have I've got the support from SDG&E's team. They'll be assisting in that effort, and they're experts in this area. So they're going to be helping with that training, putting together the training and helping to develop some of the brochures and stuff. So thankfully I won't have to do all the work. I can spread it out a little.
All right. Well, one last question is what's your biggest challenge to getting these great ideas implemented? Is it budget? It's usually budget. It's always money, right? But
money.
Is it money, time, energy? How can we help? How can we help elevate it? And get you the budget?
Money and time. I think resources I'd put even more ahead of money. I mean, money can always pay for resources, but yeah, there's only one of me and a lot to get done. So I've got to prioritize my projects and get, some things done before I can move on to others. So yeah, I'd say those are kind of the two limiting factors.
Do you think you need an assistant?
I could use 5 of me. No, I mean, it's there's got to be a balance to what the city wants to do in terms of its budget, and there's many competing priorities. So I've got a Civic Spark Fellow that's starting in a couple weeks, and I've had a Civic Spark Fellow for 3. This will be my 4th Civic Spark Fellow, which is a fantastic program. I always get eager fellows right out of college that love to be working on this stuff, and so this is actually going to be a program that I'm going to have that fellow focus on, and I think they're going to, I have high expectations that they'll be able to hit the ground running with some of the work that needs to be done.
All right. Well, considering we're in a climate emergency as declared by the city itself, it seems like we should prioritize these activities. So, okay, thank you. I won't hog the time.
Chamomile, did we have a public comment associated with this agenda item?
Yes, we do. And speaking of, we have the Judy Burlfine on the line. And Judy, whenever you're ready, you may address the commission, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. It's very fun to have myself referred to while I'm getting ready to comment. So thank you all. And thank you, Crystal. I really am just here to give my approval for what you're doing. And I think you're doing such a great job. And it sounds like our big problem is getting more money so we can provide more incentives. I think keeping LEED and Build a Green, or maybe just one of them, it is actually a good thing. And that relates back to what William Morrison was saying about bundling things, because that's sort of a way of bundling it. And I love your ideas for how to find resources through San Diego Community Power. And then hopefully, if the American Jobs Plan goes through, they talk a lot about home retrofits, and that there would be funding in there for that. And so lastly, I just want to reiterate what you've all heard from me before. The best way to limit greenhouse gases is to design our buildings so they need less energy in the first place. And we can design homes to be comfortable with proper insulation, properly installed heaters and air conditioners, proper shading. One thing that I did not see on there for incentives, which I think which I'm always telling everyone about, are whole house fans. None of this is really sexy, so people aren't that interested in it, but it's smart. And so incentives are a great way to kind of make it more sexy. And I heard a great term recently. The term is negawatts with an N, as opposed to mega and kilowatts. And negawatts are the unit of energy that is not required to make things happen. And so when we're more efficient, then we're using negawatts. And the US has been able to stabilize our greenhouse gases more from our efficiency than all of our solar and wind plants. And that's a good thing. And we need to keep doing more of it. So I highly recommend to all of you, I think Chamomile is going to send this to you. There's a physicist, author, if you haven't heard of him, his name is Amory Lovins. He spoke recently to the North County Climate Change Alliance, and he's very wonky, but he's very inspiring. If you're depressed about climate change, you should listen to this because he will make you feel inspired and hopeful. And it's a long talk, even if you just listen to half of it. So thank you all. You're doing great work.
Thank you, Judy. Real fine. That concludes speakers.
Thank you so much, Camille. Thank you, Judy. I personally do think that Whole House fans are sexy, but you know, that's just me. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I do, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand on this. Will somebody tell me? I've been looking to raise my hand and I can't find it, and I didn't want to jump in. I can't. Somebody's going to need to give me a tutorial later. Anyway, is this an okay time? Okay, thank you. So anyway, Crystal, thank you very much for your presentation, and I like all of the, I really like all the incentives and everything you have listed, and I appreciated Commissioner Bisconner's discussion of the low-hanging fruit. And I just, as a young homeowner, I'm not young anymore, but when I was, and my husband did most of our repairs ourselves, and he still does. My husband is amazingly handy. And so I just, as I looked at that, one of your requirements was hiring an Encinitas contractor and doing some of the small things like Inge was saying that are the low-lying fruit, like duct repair or insulation, really wouldn't require a contractor. So is there a way to just say in there, you know, if you have to hire a contractor, make it Encinitas, but if the homeowner is doing it themselves, just don't. Do you understand where I was going with that, Crystal?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Everything else sounded great. I just thought that was something
that's a good point.
that would have been a hindrance to my family. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you, Crystal, as always, for all of your wonderful and amazing work. And I do wish we had the power to clone you. That would be great.
That would be awesome. All right, well, thank you very much, and I will leave you to the rest of your meeting. Have a good
Thank
night.
you, Crystal.
Thanks, Crystal.
Okay, now we're moving on to action items, number 7. Eric?
Unmute. That's the trick button. You got to get used to it. Here we are 2 years into this and still muting myself. So this particular item, as we know, is a monthly visit to the current work plan. And this particular month is going to conclude this work plan's kind of status tracking and update. We have an item coming later in the agenda that will go over the proposed new work plan. But when that new work plan is brought to council, part of that is carrying this kind of what the commission has completed list. So that's a lot of words just to say that this commission has accomplished a lot in the last year, and I think that is exemplified here. And I think this was an idea that emerged to keep this kind of rolling tally a few years ago, and it's served this commission very well. So for tonight, for the final update of this particular year, we have we do have a variety of commissioners involved that have been updated, but then also under the goal 7 for CAP implementation. So it's just capturing what the commission heard last meeting, received a presentation from community member Dovlet Ponazil and Judy Burrowfine on the topic of achieving CAP implementation. I won't read the whole thing. I also included on here what Crystal shared about the draft ordinance, the green building ordinance, 2021-13, which this commission was presented, was introduced through a public hearing to the City Council on Wednesday, the 18th, so she was right. In response to City Council direction to remove specific exemptions and further evaluate others, which Crystal detailed for you all, it's anticipated that draft ordinance 2021-13 will be reintroduced to the City Council in September, so later this month. Under Goal 10 for vegetation management, it was on August 11th, actually the City Council formed an ad hoc joint committee consisting of environmental commissioners and planning commissioners to develop technical guidelines for a city native plant landscape policy that was actually brought to the city council by former environmental commissioner, who's now a city council member, Joy Lines. Again, some updates to participation here, adding Commissioner Parker to a number of items, and that's pretty much where it's all captured. So I will turn it over to you if you have any questions, any discussion items, any additions to the status that you'd like us to include. Otherwise, just as a reminder, it is an actionable item to approve this each month. And with that, I'll turn it over.
Thanks, Eric. Looks like Commissioner Bisconner's got a question or comment.
Yes, thank you. Very, very small. Down on item 7, if you could scroll down. If you could add the date of where you start to speak in red. What date was did we receive the presentation from Dadla and Judy? All the other sentences start with the date. And I got confused because that ran into the other draft ordinance thing, and I think that would help people like me keep them separate. So if you could add the date of the last commission meeting to the first sentence in red, that would be great.
Consider it done. We will make that update.
And on item 6, the environmental awards program, Christian and Chamomile and I have begun the process for launching the 2021 award season. The press release has been drafted and so forth, so nothing is done. I don't know if you want to note that or not. It's probably fine to just include that in the next set of work plans.
We can do that.
Okay. Otherwise, looks great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any additions or edits? Okay, so I'm happy to make a motion to approve with the aforementioned edit from Commissioner Bisconner. Anybody second?
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you all. We have an approved final work plan for this period. And indeed, a lot of work was done by the commission this last year, and I think we all have really a lot to be proud of. And before we harm ourselves, patting our backs, we're going to get right into next year's work plan. So, number 8 here is the commissioner-initiated agenda item, actually from me, and this is to hopefully finalize this upcoming year's work plan so that we can send it to the City Council for approval. As you all know, we met about this. There was a subcommittee consisting of myself, Commissioner Kramer, and Commissioner Morrison, who have met twice. And in between those 2 meetings, we also brought a draft of this document to the full commission last month. So what we see here is a red line version, and it might be easiest to just look at the clean version, which Eric is scrolling to now. And this is the final version that we're proposing here. There's absolutely opportunity to edit and change this if anybody sees something they want to add or clarify or edit, or want to add a name to a commissioner involved in any of these that are not yet on there. But hopefully by the end of the discussion today, we can approve this and move it on to the council. So I'll leave it there. Do Commissioner Kramer or Commissioner Morrison, do you guys want to jump in? Commissioner Morrison?
I was going to say I apologize for missing a couple of those 2 meetings, but I worked with Eric on the side. Life is complicated, whereas tonight's back to school night too for middle school, so double duty. I apologize. I feel like I'm not pulling my weight, so I'd like to ask if I could be with Ingy on the irrigation to use my landscape architecture knowledge to help on that. And I did go to the Ciclavia, so if Commissioner Adams needs another partner on there, I would gladly join him there.
That'd be great. For number 9 to add you, William. Thank you. Or Commissioner Morrison. Thank you.
You got it.
Awesome. So Eric, you got that? Adding Commissioner Morrison to numbers 9 and 12.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Commissioner Kramer, did you want to say anything?
I don't have any suggested changes to make. I just want to thank you, Chair Novi and Eric, for just educating me on the process of being a commissioner and getting me up to speed with sort of some of the substance of some of these items. And it was a great learning experience. So thanks so much for spending the time. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
You're welcome.
Any other comments, questions? All right, well, I'm happy to make a motion to approve the new work plan. Approve it, I guess, what's the right wording here? We are approving it to send to the council for their approval, or recommending it to council, maybe that's the right term, with the edit as mentioned by Commissioner Morrison. Will anybody second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Great. Thank you all for doing that. It's such an important part of what we do each year, and I can see we're going to have another busy year ahead of us, and that's really outstanding. And Eric, as always, thank you for walking us through this and making sure we do it right and present to the council something that that we hope that they're going to be really able to get behind, which I think they will.
You're welcome. Just as an update, this will go to City Council on the 22nd of this month, so it's going to come pretty quick.
Okay, and then I know a few of us from the subcommission, or at least one of us, it would be ideal if we could be on hand in case there's any questions from the council.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Okay, moving on to number 9 here. Are there any updates on items of interest or any announcements by the commissioners or staff? Hearing none, do we have any future commissioner-initiated agenda items?
I had an item I'd like to discuss. Sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
Go for it.
Okay, cool. So just looking through the packet, Chamomile sent us, I was just, looking over the environmental policy, the city's environmental policy. And one of the goals is to monitor, evaluate, and advise about the environmental impact of emerging planning documents, such as the housing and circulation elements of the general plan. And we've discussed this. This is item 11 on our work plan. And so I just thought, to move forward with achieving this goal, I would like to propose a creation of a joint committee, including members of the Environmental Commission and the Planning Commission, to just sort of think through some ways to harmonize the housing element and our environmental goals of the city and CAP implementation. I'm not quite sure what the process would be, but that was just something I would like to bring up as a point of discussion, and I would like to take the lead on that if that's necessary or recommended.
You have effectively taken the lead by introducing that item. So I can certainly guide you through the process of essentially what you do, Commissioner Kramer, and this is actually a perfect place to bring up where if you have a desire to bring something forward as a commissioner initiated item at a future meeting, this is where you kind of daylight it first. And I can walk you through the process in preparing an agenda report and putting that together, and then you'd bring it forward as a commissioner initiated item under number 8 at a future meeting.
Okay.
So that's the process.
Okay, I'll be in communication with you. Thank you so much.
Little did you know, you walked right into it. So, but just we'll touch base and we'll walk you through it.
Okay, appreciate it.
Just one thing I'll be interested in for that process is I don't think our commission has the authority alone to create a joint committee with another commission. I think it either has to be done by the council or both commissions have to agree to it. Is that right, Eric?
Yeah, some version thereof. So that's what I mean. We'll have to kind of navigate the mechanics of what you would want to see and what you would want it to accomplish, and then we can iron it out that way. So,
but it's a great idea. I look forward to it. Okay, any additional future commissioner initiated agenda items? All right. Well, there's a quick meeting and we can adjourn. Thank you all so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.